So it's really been a massive shift in work culture, and it's come with a range of implications. And the one that we've really focused on in our research is the benefits and the opportunities around productivity.
Yeah, so I mean that's more than a third. You know, that's a massive shift. Do you feel as though, I want to ask you about the productivity side of things in a moment, but do you feel as though that's a permanent shift, or are we now seeing a trend where businesses are just trying to get people to return to the office?
Look, I think that work from home is here to stay. I don't think we're ever going to go back to 100% back in the office. We've really looked at the research around this. There's a lot of views and opinions and anecdotes, and it can be quite confusing. And it's an area where we really need good quality research and evidence to identify the best approach. But what we've really seen when we've been looking at that evidence is this disconnect between what workers want and what firms are looking for. So workers are really, really feeling that they're more productive at home. They benefit from that flexibility. They like not having to do the commute every day. Whereas firms, the in-office productivity benefits are really seen at the firm level. They're less tangible for workers, and they take longer to accrue. Things like collaboration, mentoring activities that go on when people get together in person. So there's this sort of disconnect between what workers want and what employees want at the moment, and that's where we're trying to bring the evidence together to see what the best approach is. And so far the evidence is sort of landing on hybrid, being able to achieve the best of both worlds and actually getting a productivity gain if you can do that really well.
So by that you mean going into the office a few days a week, blending your time from home and commuting?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. There's sort of benefits on both sides, and if you can sort of get the best of both worlds, then you're doing really well.
Yeah, because it's with that disconnect, as you just described it, I imagine that must be difficult because you've got people who want to work from home. That's almost seen as an attribute if they're going for a job. Businesses feel differently. They want people to go back. Some people might want to go back. I mean, it's a generalisation, I feel, to say that everyone wants to work from home. Some people feel they're more productive to get in their work clothes, hop on the train, go to work and leave home at home, you know. So with those challenges, how do you do that going forward? How do businesses and people who want to keep working from home maintain that structure to allow that to happen?
Yeah, it's a really complex, difficult area to navigate, and we know that it's going to be a case of not one size fits all. It's not a case of set and forget, that firms are really going to have to be up for experimenting and embracing that complexity to sort of find the best approach that works for their organisation, and knowing that may change over time. And a lot of the sort of burden of figuring this all out is going to fall to managers. So we really need managers who are dynamic, who are great with their communication in terms of bridging that expectations gap that we spoke about, who are willing to experiment. And all this, is easier said than done, but we do sort of highlight a few first steps that we think businesses should be taking. Number one is focusing on the sort of the no regrets, I guess, changes, if you like, that will make both work from home and in-office work more effective. So things like clarifying teams' performance expectations, formalising some of those mentoring arrangements, capturing the right data so that firms are able to make informed decisions about ways of working and what's the most beneficial approach for them. And secondly, we think managers are going to need support through this. We know that only 1/3 of organisations have provided any training to their managers around how to deal with remote or hybrid work. So there's a gap there that it could be useful to fill that as well.
That's from the managerial side of things. What about at a governmental level? Because, the right to work from home, it appears to be shaping up as the next frontline debate over changes to industry awards. There's this review that's been instigated by the Workplace Relations Minister. So I feel like we're going to be hearing more about this. Would you like to see the federal government take a closer look at this? I mean, should workers have that right to work from home?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, inserting that sort of clause around rights to work from home. I mean, obviously we want to preserve some of the gains from work from home, and a clear win we've had in that area is around diversity and inclusion, which we can come back to. So it's a win from that perspective, and it's good if it works for workers and for firms. I guess the risk when it comes to industrial relations legislation in this space, and I think particularly you're seeing it with the new legislation around the right to disconnect, is that employers understand the intent of these regulations, but some of those protections exist already for workers, and so you get the situation where you're trying to regulate for every circumstance, and it's not a case of one size fits all, and that can actually be a drag on productivity. And employers need the flexibility to be able to address these issues in a way that makes sense for them and for their employees as well. We know from our own research last year that that more time spent by employers on this kind of regulation can be really burdensome, and it can lessen the time they have to think about their own business and innovation, which we know are key drivers of productivity. So I guess for the legislation, the industrial relations space is about getting that balance right.
Melissa, great to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Melissa Wilson is a Senior Economist for CEDA, Committee for Economic Development of Australia, on the Economic and Policy Outlook that is out today for 2024.